Leonard Dozier is an actor, a voice actor, singer, songwriter. He is one of the primary voices for NFL films. And yes, it was Leonard you heard doing the Eagles Super Bowl recap for NFL films. One of his key theatrical roles include his memorable portrayal of AME founder Bishop Richard Allen in the Emmy-nominated docudrama Fever, 1793, and in the same role for the documentary Apostle of Freedom. At the age of 17, Leonard's own stage adaptation of best-selling author Walter Mosley's Devil in a Blue Dress, which he created through his own theater production company, Cineplay Productions. While attending Fordham University, Leonard's focus turned to singing and music. But then, over the course of the last decade, Leonard has been nominated twice for prestigious Broadway World Best Actor Awards, has appeared in a variety of key stage and film roles, most notably in the Ernie Hudson Todd Bridges film Turning Point, and in a number of August Wilson plays, including Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, The Piano Lesson, Fences, Joe Turner's Come and Gone, and in the world premiere of A Gift from John McKee. And now it's time to meet this multi-talented, multifaceted, rising superstar, Leonard Dozier. Welcome to the Berman Interviews on Sure Local Live.
What a pleasure. What a pleasure, Mark. As I said to you coming in, this is a great thrill for me. I've known your name for a long time. And so for this to happen right now, at this time, on this day, couldn't be more grateful.
Okay, listen to those pipes. So for the rest of the interview, I'm going to sound like Mickey Mouse because this guy's got the golden throat, and you've been actually recognized for that. How'd you get picked up by NFL Films?
Listen, this is an all-time story. So my dream as a voice actor, the pinnacle for me, Mark, was to actually narrate for NFL Films. I mean, I was a sports guy growing up, played basketball, I was into football and that kind of thing. And as a voice actor, as my career started to climb, I said, you know what? The pinnacle for me would be to narrate for NFL Films, to be the new John Facenda, right? Now, here's the thing. Kid you not, Mark, I spent about 3.5 years just trying to get a hold of somebody at NFL Films. I would call narration. I would call the audio department. I would call the production department, the media department. Of course, I get passed around, and I get voicemails and voicemails. And so 3.5 years, as fate would have it, I don't know if you remember this nationally recognized story about this homeless guy who had this golden voice, much like myself, had this voice. And a matter of fact, it was the Cleveland Plain Dealer that actually published this article about this guy, because I believe he was based in Cleveland. And so, sure enough, NFL Films was trying to recruit this guy. All I needed was a name. And so in the article, the senior producer's name was mentioned. And I said, that's all I need. That's all I need. Gave him a call. I think I got his voicemail, but that was pretty triumphant for me, just to be able to get an actual contact person. And so I also had his email address on file and ready to go. Sent him my demos. He called me back like 2 days later, not 2 weeks, 2 days later, called me back. He said, listen, you have a home studio? I said, yes, I do. He said, we're going to have to audition you from home. We're going to send you some material. My partner and I are going to actually run your audition, and we'll see what happens. Did the audition. Maybe a day later, he called me the next day after and said, welcome to the team. And interestingly enough, in calling me, he actually just wanted to talk to me on the phone. And he revealed this. He wanted to talk to me on the phone for like 2 minutes just to make sure that this was my real voice and not like some...
Right, somebody you brought in, right.
that was kind of like his only final vetting, measure.
So now, you're born in Summers Point.
Right.
You're raised in Pleasantville.
Right.
That means you're a South Jersey Shore guy.
Correct.
There's a football team not far from here. You may have heard of them, the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. You know, of course you did, because how great was it for you to do the recap of the Super Bowl for NFL Films for the Eagles?
Mark, unbelievable, unbelievable. I mean, of course, I got the call a few days before the Super Bowl, so I knew I was going to narrate it one way or the other. But I'm watching the Super Bowl, as 3/4 of America is, and I'm going, my goodness, Brandon Graham sacks Tom Brady, forces the fumble, and I go, they're going to win this thing. And I'm going to be narrating the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl win, and I'll never forget it, because it just, even narrating it, it was just, I think of all the voiceover work I've done in my career, there was nothing that to this day got my blood boiling during the process. I mean, it's just, whoa, the adrenaline just pumping and climbing and pumping and climbing, and then to see, right, this million. What was it? 1 million, 2 million people that participated in the parade, and to see that caravan coming into Philadelphia, because I was,
Jason Kelsey was the star.
exactly, and in fact I was actually headed to Seattle during the parade, but I remember in going to the airport just seeing this sort of cavalcade of people coming in, and I said, this is unbelievable for the area.
Now, you're an actor, but you're also a singer, and what I'd like to do now is give our listeners a little taste of your silky, smooth pipes. Check this out. This is Leonard Dozier.
Okay, the world ended today. How many of us can say we are truly ready to go? We're not ready for heaven or hell, if you ask me. We live on earth like this is all we know. Oh, people, we can be better. Let's get ourselves together. Yes, we can do better. You know it, are we ready?
When I have a singer on, what I don't want to do, what I do is say, you sound like, because everybody wants to sound themselves, but I do ask everybody, who are your influences? And when I heard this track for the first time, I had to say to myself, are you freaking kidding me? Is this Luther? I mean, I hate to do that to you, but
it's quite a compliment, actually. It's quite a compliment. Luther was my chief influence growing up. I mean, and it's interesting, Mark, because I think far before I actually even thought about a career in music, and I would just kind of sing. You know, my mother sang gospel a little bit, and so I kind of started writing songs for her. That's kind of how I got my foray into music. But I remember singing early on, and just there was this tone that I had that it just kind of matched Luther's naturally. So it wasn't like this very concentrated effort to sound like it was just there. You know, it's kind of parallels, I think, to some extent, you know, the work I do as Dr. King in some ways, where it's just, you know, sometimes it's just in you. You know, it's not even something you have to concentrate on, really, you know, spending any effort.
You were gifted from a higher power, because this track, and I've listened to other tracks too that are equally as good, but this one really blew me away. I want to get to Mountaintop, but before we do, talk a little bit about some of the roles you've played, because you're also an actor.
Yeah.
I mean, multifaceted, hell yeah.
Yeah, well, listen, everything, voice acting, music, it all really, the genesis of it all is the acting career. And it's interesting because Showmakers Theater, I don't know if you remember Showmakers Theater, they were a really good community theater outfit here in South Jersey for about 20, 30 years. And when I was a teenager in high school, I actually did Corporal Dawson in A Few Good Men. They did this. I mean, even though they were a community theater, I mean, they had professionally styled piece, and I mean, they had big budgets even for a community theater. And so I played Corporal Dawson, and I was directed there by Helen Vaspoli, and Helen was very involved with the Miss America pageant for a long, long time, and she said, and she went on record and said, you know, that performance you gave was one of the greatest performances by an actor I've seen in 40 years. And I'm 16 years old. Wow. You know, and so that led me into Fordham University, and then I kind of came out of that and really started to get my theater career and film and TV career going. But in theater, that's really where, the Broadway World nominations have come. Playing Troy Maxon in Fences, that's been sort of celebrated recently with Denzel Washington playing the same role. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, playing Levy, the trumpeter. I've done 4 August Wilson pieces, and in fact, 2 of the Broadway World Best Actor nominations came from those August Wilson pieces. Interesting story for the South Jersey community. John McKee, that's a name almost nobody knows. But if you think of McKee City, here just outside, right? So John McKee actually founded McKee City.
Okay.
And he was probably the wealthiest African American in the 19th century in the country. The wealthiest African American in the country in the 19th century. I mean, to the point, Mark, that he was having meetings with guys like Vanderbilt.
Wow.
And Carnegie. And I mean, it's amazing that this story was not told until I actually played him about 8 years ago now. And the play was called A Gift from John McKee. And he was a colonel. He was a Civil War colonel. So this was a guy and he amassed great wealth. He lived in Philadelphia, died in Philadelphia, but came back here to South Jersey, founded, McKee City. Nobody knows the story. Nobody talks about the story. I had a blast playing him, though.
And now your production company is bringing Mountaintop.
Yes.
The story, and it's a fictional story,
Yes.
but it's Dr. King's final night before his assassination. It's going to be debuting on Dr. King's birthday, January 20th at the Claridge Radisson Hotel.
Yes.
You see, when you say Claridge, you have to say Radisson Hotel.
Radisson.
And so
I just learned that.
here in Atlantic City, please tell us about this and what you're doing, and about going down to Wildwood to shoot some of the B-roll.
Listen, so Dr. King has been with me a long time, and this play, and I guess we'll talk about a little bit my entry into the arts, which came courtesy of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. But the Mountaintop is, as you said, it's this fictional piece, though there's a lot of, in some ways I call it semi-fictional, because there's a lot of, historical moments, and in the banter between the 2 cast members, Dr. King and the maid that shows up at the Lorraine Motel, there's a lot of history that is accurate, that's talked about and portrayed. But we see a very human Dr. King, and yet we still have this king that we all revere, this icon that we revere and pay deference to. And it's sort of a powerful, what possibly happened the final night of his life there at the Lorraine Motel. It challenges the audience to imagine what King's final night on this earth was like.
And you play Dr. King, and you will be doing this again at the Claridge Hotel. Now, for promo for the show, you had to find a motel that kind of emulated the Lorraine. Now, where'd you go to find this?
We went to the Caribbean Motel in Wildwood. And interestingly enough, we found out, Mark, that this particular motel is actually the only New Jersey hotel that is listed in the National Registry of Hotels and Motels. In fact, the motel owner was she was quite proud to tell us that, and in fact showed us the record, the documented record of them being in this registry. And Sherry McCracken, who is my photographer and the photographer.
We have to give a shout out here. Little Rock Studios,
Little Rock.
You Do Rock.
Absolutely.
They are absolutely amazing.
Absolutely.
Pinnacle. And Sherry is such a sweetheart and great people.
Great eye, my dear friend, and the promo shots, Mark, are incredible. I mean, they are incredible. In fact, there were some people who saw the promo shots already, and one individual said, hey, you're right up the road from me here in Memphis. And I said, no. So that's how much we were able to really chronicle and reflect. That.
Where can we find tickets?
Yes. So actually, first and foremost, you can call the Cineplay Productions hotline, 888-660-0285. You can also go to Eventbrite. You can go to Eventbrite, and then my website, which is leonarddozier.com. We also will have box office set up at the Claridge or Radisson Hotel, and so yes, we'll actually have some will call pickup at the Claridge. So there are 4 ways, in fact, to get tickets.
For everything about this guy, LeonardDozier.com. That's LeonardDozier.com for everything.
Yes.
And please, we want to see you out at the Claridge Hotel. I want to thank you for spending a few minutes in the Berman interviews for Sure Local News.
Thank you, Mark. As I said, this is a pleasure beyond words, man. Thank you so much.
For Sure Local News, I'm Marc Berman.